So a few of you are really keen to know the kind of tools I use for my investing process. So in this video, I'm going to show you what those tools are, and just to make sure my Asian heritage are proud of my investment stack, these tools are absolutely free. At least for now they are. And to keep the compliance people happy, yes, I am a random Asian dude you found on the internet. So this video is not financial advice or recommendation for you to do anything. And no, I'm not sponsored to make this video, but if you do learn something new, consider gently smacking that like button right there. And all of the links to the tools are in the description box below, so feel free to help yourself. So one of the first tools I am absolutely obsessed with at the moment is called Ticker. Now Ticker is one of my go-to stock investing tool now, simply Wall Street. And it's pulling institutional grade data from Standard & Poor's. It literally has everything I need to do analysis on companies. So I want to go through an example with you just to show you what it can do. In my experience using Ticker so far, it has information on both American stocks and also Australian stocks. And I'm pretty sure it does have data points on stocks from other countries as well. Now in the overview tab, it's nothing special. It's basically 52-week high, lows, share outstanding, market cap, total enterprise value. So all of the basic stuff. Now, if you click on show price chart, it will tell you the different prices, the volume, different time horizons as well. So again, very basic, nothing special. In the financials is where things get a little bit interesting. Now, the financials actually has all of the information that you need, especially historical information. So there is an income statement tab, balance sheet, cash flow statement. It has everything I possibly want and need. And this is a 5-year time horizon at the moment. So I can actually drag it into 10 years if I want. My portrait is covering this, but you get the point. And if we want to see the gross profit trajectory over time, what you can actually do is you click on the line item and you can actually chart the data. So you can actually see how it has changed over time. I thought that feature was super nifty, really good. Balance sheet as well. I spent a lot of time on these 3 tabs within financials. Balance sheet has historical information as well, so it kind of helps you gauge what are the receivable percentages, current assets. It has additional ratios as well in the supplementary data. And for me, one of the main things about this balance sheet section is that it tells me the total debt, net debt, and also capital leases as well. So I can calculate an enterprise value really quickly with this. Cash flow statement as well for the nerds, and ratios. There's plenty of ratios for everyone to play around with. That's probably more than enough, to be honest. There is so much here. So I spend majority of my time in this tab right here amongst these 3-4 things. Now it also has the ability for you to change the intervals. So you can actually change it from an annual setting to a quarterly, to a semi-annual, to an LTM. It's really up to you and it's very flexible. Now the next tab that I spent a lot of time on is valuation. If you've been following me for quite a bit, I generally don't believe other platforms discounted cash flow models because DCF is very dependent on assumptions. So I prefer to be able to build my own model or change the assumptions so that it reflects my own beliefs and thinking. But the good thing about Ticker is that it's not providing a DCF valuation model, but it's providing historical trading multiples. And this relative way of measuring value, in my opinion, is a lot more objective. One of the more nifty features for me that I found really helpful with Ticker is that if you click on the line item, you go chart data, you can actually see the historical trend of EV revenue, right? So currently Square is trading at about 12 times EV revenue, and historical EV revenue is about 7 times. So it's trading above average EV revenue at the moment, even after it got corrected. So that kind of helps me gauge where they at with valuation at the moment. Now, of course, you can click on the competitor tab and it will show you Square compared to other IT services company. And this is a really good quick view on how the Square stack up to other companies when it comes to their valuation, right? And there's different categories as well. So you can go software and you can see Square being compared with Adobe and Oracle, which is probably not a very good comparison. Consumer finance as well. Consumer finance, sometimes these numbers are missing, so that's not very helpful. But honestly, you can't really ask for more because this would take a while to complete if you were to do this on your own. So super helpful on the valuation front. And the next tab that I spent a lot of time on is estimates. Now, estimates are essentially 2 years of projected numbers from analysts. And you can change these numbers to look at a longer time horizon and then look at the CAGR. But generally, I think 5 years is more than enough. And Ticker doesn't provide projections beyond 2 years. And I think that's really good because beyond 2 years, these projections become just like you're throwing a dart in the dark. So 2 years is perfectly fine. And the projections go beyond revenue, EBITDA, so on and so forth as well. So very helpful in my opinion. This helps me build my valuation for the company I'm researching really quickly, which is amazing. Now the last 3 tabs is I come here, but I don't really spend that much time on these. And these are essentially transcripts for different calls. Filings is SEC filings, so Square's quarterly reports with the SEC. And this is actually the same if you go to Appen. Like for example, if you go to an Australian stock, then the filings will be the filings with the ASX, right? And then the ownership tab is pretty similar to the Simply Wall Street ownership tab. You can see who are the main key shareholders, and then you can see who are the insiders that are buying and selling this company. So super helpful. This is my go-to tool at the moment for majority of my research. So the next tool that I use is called Whale Wisdom. Now I use Whale Wisdom to track what fund managers are doing in the market. What are they buying and selling? The thing about this tool is that when funds submit their 13F filings, it is somewhat delayed. So the latest filing reflect the Q4, which is the last couple months of the 2020. So it's a little bit delayed, but it helps you understand what are the fund managers doing with their money and the capital they have in their fund. One of my favorite institutional investor is Stanley Druckenmiller, and he manages the Duquesne family office. So when you type in the fund, you get to this point, and then you can actually see, if you click on see all holdings, you can actually see what are they holding, what percentage of the portfolio is in, for example, Microsoft. Did they buy or add more? So for example, they have sold all of their, is that Carnival Cruise? So they have sold all of their Carnival Corp cores, and they've also sold all of their gold miners. So that's really interesting. And if you click that again, it will tell you whatever that's new. So what's AA? So AA is our core corp. So at the end of the day, I use this tool as an idea generation machine. I want to see what people are doing, what are they adding, what are they thinking about, and that helps me understand the market a little bit more because I don't have a bunch of analysts helping me to understand the market. I only have myself, maybe you guys, and a bunch of tools. So this cuts down a lot of research time. Now I know that a lot of you are Michael Burry fans, so you can actually type in Scion Asset Management, and that's his fund, and you can look at what he's holding. What are the new things he's added? So he's added, I think, Now, which is in the energy sector, into his portfolio. You can also see what he sold, and I'm pretty sure he sold GameStop, in December. Yeah, so he sold all of it. So that's pretty interesting. Other funds that I also follow is Howard Marks, Oaktree Capital, and Bailey Gifford. So I have a bunch of funds that I am personally really interested in, and I generally just come here to take a look at what's been happening with some of these funds and how are they navigating the environment. It tells me a lot about how they see the market. So the next tool that I am pretty obsessed about is called Open Insider. And I use this tool as an extension to Whale Wisdom to understand who are the insiders that are buying and selling American equities. This only applies to the US market at the moment, which is a bit of a bummer. And you might be familiar with saying that when insiders sell, depending on how they sell, how much they sell, it might not be a big deal. But when an insider buy, that's a completely different story. Maybe they believe that the company is going to worth so much more, or they know something that we don't. So I generally like to come here to take a look at who's been buying, and it's really helpful to see the date of the purchase, the ticker, the company name, insider name, the position in the company, and also the value that they bought. And you can see that there are pretty heavy purchases from the Murdoch family. And yeah, that kind of helps me generate ideas and understand what's happening with different companies. Part of what makes this tool really good is there's a chart tab. If you click on that, it'll show you an insider buy sell chart. And this is super, super helpful for me to understand and gauge how the market is feeling. And this is something that I share quite often with my Patreon and Discord group, that the red line is people selling, the blue line is people buying, insider buying, that is. And if you extend this to the GFC period, now take that for what it's worth, but you can see that, moving towards the GFC, people were already selling. People weren't selling at the peak of the GFC bubble. People were selling way before then. And when the GFC came, people started buying. You can see here the blue line is the purchasing, and it went through the roof. Now, that's just an interesting observation, and I like to come here just to get a feel of how the market is feeling at the moment. You can actually see who's selling as well. So for example, let's say latest insider sale, and you can see the different companies that's currently being sold. Looks like Zugs have sold some Facebook shares, but he's been selling Facebook shares for a bit. Now, the next tool I'm using should be a little bit familiar to you, and that's Market Index. Now, I don't use this tool for commodity prices, etc., because we've built a custom dashboard for commodities in my Patreon, but I mostly come here for this segment here of market cap, ASX rank, and also sector rank. For me, I like to understand where my position is at when it comes to their rankings within ASX, because as a company get closer to ASX 300, it's a good catalyst that if they do move into ASX 300, it means that some of the index funds will have to purchase some of this company in order to reflect the ASX 300 index. So that's pretty cool. Now, Market Index also have everything ticker has as well. So announcements, company overviews, dividend history, director transactions. There's an additional thing I want to point out here, that even though Market Index is a much, much smaller company compared to ASX, they have nailed the user experience, hands down. So just because a company is more well-funded, it does not mean anything. Last and definitely not least, I use Sharesight as a reporting tool for my portfolio. Now, this is definitely a personal preference because I'm a little bit lazy on the spreadsheet side. Now, some people still use spreadsheets to track their portfolio, and that's absolutely fine. For me personally, I wanted some of my time back, so I use Sharesight to track my portfolio. Not to mention, it has some very nice features when it comes to understanding the capital appreciation, dividends, and currency gains. And that's a really good dashboard for me to both show you and show myself how my portfolio is going. On top of that, my accountant is pretty happy that I can just provide some simple CGT taxable income reports for her so that she doesn't have to deal with my spreadsheets. And a bonus tool that I use whenever I am super bored is called Shortman. Now, Shortman provides a quick overview on the top 100 most shorted stocks on the ASX. Now, this is one of the ways I know how to get this information. I don't really know how else to get this information. And I've created a dedicated video on what I do with this list of information and how I look for contrarian signals. So I put that video somewhere on the screen or in the description box below. I think it's just really interesting to look at what are some of the companies that are unfairly beaten up and the short sellers are just coming in trying to make money. So whenever I'm a little bit bored, I come here and look for ideas. Now, those are my magical tools for my investing process. If there's an additional tool that you think I should really try, let me know in the comment section below. So thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you want to support the channel, not to mention access to additional content pieces and be part of my fortnightly Q&A, consider supporting the channel via Patreon. Nevertheless, if you have learned something new, remember to gently smack the like button right there, subscribe to my channel so that when I release future videos, you be the first one to know. Until next time, my name is David. Otto will always do the honors and see you very, very soon.